Well, hey everybody, Matthew Owen here for the Hornet's Nest, and with my friends Sports on Focus behind the camera, and we're sitting here with Coach Jim Hagen for your Colby Hornets, and also the athletic director and middle school principal. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And you're doing even more well because the news is out.
The news is out,
And
I don't know why it's such a big deal. I mean, just see, I'm retiring from coaching, and
that's the thing is, like, you're right. Once people said, can you believe it, Hagen retired, it's like, well, I think he still has his desk job. So is he really retired?
I still have my desk job, at least this year, and hopefully next year. You know, hopefully the school board brings me back for at least another year. I still need to support my family, and put food on the table. And
you're not going to get into, like, arts and crafts, do something on Etsy, generate some income that way?
It won't be, if I generate income, it's not going to be arts and crafts, no.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not Coach Kleinschmidt, so.
I was hoping you would bring him up. Yeah. Well, I wanted to sit down with you. This is something we've done for many, many years. Mm-hmm. Getting your input, take on things related with football and life in general with athletics. And yeah, it's that was kind of like a bombshell for everybody, to be honest, when that announcement was made at the school board. So I guess my first question is, when did you feel, or how did you know that it was time to move from the head coaching role?
Truthfully, I had been thinking about it for a number of years. Not that I don't enjoy coaching football, because I love it. It was just getting to the point where I want to do some other things in life before I get too old, or do more of certain things that I'm already enjoying in life before I get too old. I want to golf more. I want to spend more time, with my wife, especially in the fall. Fall's a beautiful time of the year, with changing of the colors and the weather, and I just want to do more, golfing, maybe, more taking walks in the woods and bike riding, and I grew up 3 hours from here in a town called Horicon, Horicon Marsh.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And my parents are in their 80s, and I want to spend more time with mom and dad. I really do. Taking a walk in the marsh with my mom, or watching a football game on Saturday or Sunday with my dad, and my brother lives in the Milwaukee area, and I want to be able to go to some Friday night games down there, because occasionally he'll go to a Muskego against McGuanago or a Franklin against Catholic Memorial. I want to be able to do that with him, and then the next day wake up and head to South Bend and go to a Notre Dame game with my brother. And my sister lives in North Carolina. I'm very close with my sister. And my nephew's down there, and I want to just be able to go visit them and go to some different football games down there. I've been to a South Carolina game. I've been to a Clemson football game. My sister doesn't live far from Duke in North Carolina. Go to one of those games. And you can't do those things when you're a football coach, because when you're coaching football, it's Friday nights, it's Saturdays, it's Sundays, and
I was to say, it's not just football. It's not just on Friday night. It's
it's a 7-day job. And then, I also have 2 daughters, and now they're having children, so I have 5 grandchildren, I want to spend more time with them,
It's just stacking up for you. You're not going to have any kind of time.
It just got to the point where I'm just like, I need to give back to my family, because they've given up a lot for me, like my children, and my wife, and, my parents, and it's just time, and you just kind of know it, that it's time, and it's nothing bad happened, nothing, the season was great, the seasons are always great, and I don't know, it's just when you kind of start taking walks at night, or you wake up at 2 in the morning thinking about football, and you can't get things off your mind, and I just want, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like
I just want to do something else,
Absolutely. It kind of sounds like football will still be on your mind, because it sounds like, I want to go see this football game. Then I want to go see.
And I love all sports. Well, not all sports, but I love sports in general.
I'll say cricket.
Yeah, and but football obviously is always was my my first love in life. That and baseball, and I will always watch football. Whether it's high school football. I'm a college football fanatic. You can ask my wife that, because she's like, oh, we got to watch another game on Saturday. We got to watch. Can't we watch something else? No. But I don't know.
Well, you're speaking of life and time of football, you've been in the coaching program for a long time. If I remember, it's over 30 years, 33 years.
33, yeah.
33 years, and 7 of those was as head coach. So, yeah, that's a big chunk of time. And, like you said, to give back. So, when in the season, though, was it like, did you feel like it was during the season, or was it that last game? When did it, that you're just like...
I had already made up my mind after last season.
Oh, I gotcha.
You know, after the 2022 season.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of thinking, you know, I think next year is going to be my last. You know, and I didn't tell a lot of people.
You didn't care to let us know.
I didn't want anybody. I didn't want it to be about me. I still want it to be about the players. You know, it's their season. You know, they only have 4 years to play high school football.
Correct,
you know, and you know, my wife knew, and you know, like Coach Smazel knew, and I think I told Coach Rosemeyer, and
Did they cry?
no, they're probably like, yeah, you know, I don't know, you know. So I kind of knew going into the season that this was, no matter if we went 0-9 or won a state championship,
You're gonna love
2023 was going to be my last season.
Yeah.
So
Now, speaking of seasons and games, going through this in your 7-year campaign here at Colby, 58-16 overall, and out of that, if we look at just the postseason, 10-6, 3 conference titles, a state championship, very decorated. Wisconsin Coaches Association clinic, you got invited to that. Very decorated. But looking at these games, and I made you aware of these ahead of time.
you did.
Yup.
And some of them are some tough questions because I looked ahead and I'm like, did you like take a schooling in the last month or so on how to ask tough questions? Because I'm like,
It's always been my thing.
I know. Okay.
So, obviously, the state game was a special game, and we'll have time to talk about that. But if we remove that state game, what was your most memorable game?
Besides the state game?
Yeah, we'll talk about that state game. But like, if you think about like regular,
Does it have to be just one, or can I just talk about maybe a couple?
Certainly, absolutely. Like if you look at that regular season snapshot, and you're like, I'm never going to forget that.
I think when I think back, besides the state game, you know, there's 3 games that really stand out in my mind. You know, one was in 2019 when we beat Spencer at Spencer in overtime.
Double overtime.
Was it double? Okay, I thought it was just overtime.
Steven will correct that.
I think it was just overtime.
Okay.
You know, we had a goal line stand at the end of the game to keep them out of the end zone, to put it in overtime. Then we did another goal line stand in overtime. And then, you know, then our first play, when we got on offense, we scored. I remember Tyler Clement went on a sweep for 25 yards, and that was a very emotional win for me, just because we had gotten beat by Spencer 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
And most of those games were by quite handily. I mean, they had some very good football players at that time, and a very good. So that was just like, you know, up to that point, I just didn't feel like I had a big signature win under my name as a head football coach, and that was like, that was a big win. You know, playing Spencer, which I have so much respect for Coach Gorst and his program, and a big crowd, and you know, just 10 miles down the road, that was a big game. I would say the other game, 2 more games that stand out, was the state championship year in 2021 when we went to Hortonville. You know, even though we lost that game, that was probably the largest crowd that I've ever coached in front of. I mean,
it was nuts.
I mean that, and I actually have a picture over there on my shelf of it yet. My wife took a picture of it from across the field, and their stands are just plump full of people, and the atmosphere was just electric that night. And it was a beautiful night in October, and even though we lost, our guys played their hearts out. I mean, they put it all on the line. You know, our guys are going both ways. Those guys are playing one way, and they had some really good players, and just the atmosphere and the thrill of playing in a great stadium like that, and such a big crowd, it was just, I'll never forget that game. And then the other game I think that really stands out is in 2022 when we played at St. Croix Falls in a level 2 game, and we beat them 28-0. That stadium was like one of the neatest, I don't know if that's a good word, stadiums to ever play. Old-fashioned, you know, grass, and you know, in the background was like a hill or a cliff with all these trees, and it was just a beautiful setting, you know, and we played so well that night. And on our sideline, you know, the crowd was right on top of us because the bleachers were right behind us and the fence, and And,
It was a very nostalgic scene.
yes, thank you for that word. And I remember two things, a lot of things during that game, but I remember, we were up 14-0 and we ran a sweep and Tevin Rue scored on a long touchdown. And my wife and Melissa Smiles were kind of behind our bench, and I remember just turning around and looking at my wife and just going like this and, and she's clapping, and then at the end of the game, actually, when it was all said and done, the players are talking with their families on the field, and I remember just standing somewhere on the field, looking across the field at the trees in the background and the cliff, and I remember just standing there. My wife actually came up to me and said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "We just won level 2, beat the number 1 seed." Mm-hmm. And I said, "And look at this atmosphere, this setting." I said, it's just gorgeous and it's just beautiful and I want to soak it in." So.
Yeah. And let's go to that state championship game. Obviously, that one's going to be really hard to beat. Mm-hmm. What does it mean to you to have a championship trophy in that trophy case here at the school?
It means we had a really good football team. It means we had some really good players and coaches who really know how to coach and to prepare a football team. Because, as a head coach, you don't do this alone. You got to have guys that are willing to work their tails off and watch film and prepare the players. And there was a lot of expectations going into that season, in 2021. Mm-hmm. And we did it. And we lived up to those expectations and the hype, and, we beat a very good St. Mary's, Springs football team, and, it was just a great experience. I just remember on Wednesday we practiced out on the field, and then we had dinner, supper was sponsored by the parents in the cafeteria, then we get on the bus and head to the hotel, and it was just fun sitting at the hotel, with all the players and just sitting in the lobby and talking. And, then at 11, lights were out. And just waking up the next morning and having breakfast as a team, then getting on that coach bus and heading to the stadium. And, there's always going to be some players, that have never been to Madison before or even seen, Camp Randall.
Yeah.
I remember pulling up, and some guys are like, "Wow, it's a huge stadium."
This is in Wisconsin?
Yeah. And then just getting off, the bus and into the locker room where the Big Ten visiting, teams get dressed. You think Ohio State's been in here, Michigan, and then we played so well against, St. Mary Springs. And, and I just remember during the game, I just felt, we got that lead early and I just know the way our defense was playing that it's going to be very hard for them to come back and beat us. Yeah. But you never take anything for granted. And I can remember about 5 minutes left in the game, 4 minutes, and it was a nice day. Kind of chilly, but, some snowflakes falling at times. And I just remember looking up at the clock saying, I don't want this game to end. Just because you feel like you're in control of the game. It's kind of like going to a good concert or a good movie. You don't want it to end. Yeah, the vibes are good. Yeah, and I just remember, no, I don't want this to be over, and so I guess, yeah, it's, to be a state champ is not an easy thing to do, No. I don't care what sport it is, and to accomplish that, and, your fans are cheering, and the guys are crying, and it's a great feeling, obviously.
What's the snapshot in your head when somebody says about that state game? What's the first thing that pops in your head, like first scene or first memory?
Of that game or that?
Yeah, of that game or that experience.
It's just a thrill, to watch. We had some really good football players on that team, Brent and Andrew and, Mason Voss and, Healy, and, and I feel bad even just mentioning names because I'm going to, feel bad that I'm not including everybody, but we had some really good football players and those guys worked so hard for that, and they just love to compete. And the bigger the game, the better they played. That's just the way it was with that team. So,
you're here at Colby. You're from Horicon, the marshland, but you came here to Colby, and you've mentioned that a few times in interviews about this being a special place. Why was this a special place for you to coach at?
Well, I didn't know it at the time, when I applied here. Truthfully, I didn't even know where Colby was. And that's 100% honest.
That's 90% of the state. Nobody knows where.
Yeah, and came here and truthfully, I told my family and friends, I'll stay here for a year or two, and I'm going to get the heck out of here. I have no desire to stay in Colby my whole life. I want to get back down to Horicon, down towards the Milwaukee, Madison area. And, then you slowly start to meet some really great colleagues, one of my first friends was John Kleinschmidt, and then I met Todd Menenwald, and then, Jeff Soderberg, and, then when I started coaching at the high school level, then, once I met Jeff Rosemeyer, it's like, I don't want to leave now, because these guys are just...
So it was Jeff that kept you, huh?
Not gonna lie, yeah. I mean, he made it fun, football, and I learned a ton from him, and he challenged his players. He challenged you as a coach to get better, and then once he trusted you, he kind of gave you some freedom to do things the way you want to do. And then I took over as defensive coordinator in '98, and I don't know. I love small communities to begin with, and once I became really ingrained in not only in the football program but in school, I met some great colleagues here, and then I got on the fire department and ambulance, and
you're like, I'll stay.
Pretty special place, and I have no desire to, at this point in my life, to ever leave. My kids aren't far away. One's in Loyal, Brock is in Loyal, and Jade is in Wausau, and my grandkids, and my wife Teresa. She's ingrained herself in the community, being an EMT, and loves going to different athletic events, whether it's football or cross country, volleyball, you name it, and we're not going anywhere.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Yeah.
So, last few questions here. I'll ask you this one next. What are you not going to miss about coaching?
Probably all the stuff that happens on the weekends. All the film and paperwork, and I just want to be able to wake up on a Saturday and just go. And where that is, I don't know. Go to my grandson's CUDA football game, or go to a Badger game or a Notre Dame game, and just...
you're going to sneak your way up there to the announcing booth on CUDA.
Not have to sit there and worry about, I got to hurry back so I can watch film or do this, and so those are some of the things I'm not going to miss.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with coaching, there's elements that I'm sure that you loved, otherwise you wouldn't have stuck in it this far. Mm-hmm. But I guess what I want to know is, how has coaching influenced you as a person?
Yeah, it's taught me about leadership. It's taught me about resilience. I mean, because not everything is going to go perfect as a football coach, and you're going to have ups and lows and wins and losses, and so you learn a lot about yourself, and you learn about character, and I don't know, you learn that you need others just as much as they need you as a coach, and you need your assistant coaches to do a lot of the work, and I don't know. I mean, it's had a huge influence on my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it, and I've just enjoyed it, Not every second of it's fun, because sometimes, you're going to have to deal with the discipline issue on the team or something like that, or the paperwork and stuff. But
everybody always says paperwork's not fun.
No.
What are you going to miss the most about coaching? Like, is it going to be like the locker room atmosphere?
Yeah, I would say several things. Just the camaraderie with the players. The laughs. And whether it's in the locker room or on the football field, and the camaraderie with the other coaches, and I probably will miss watching some film. Because it's fun to watch a film and say, okay, this is what they're going to do, and this is how we're gonna attack it, or how we need to stop this. And because sometimes it is, fun to try to out-coach another coach, so you're going to miss that. You're going to miss the Friday nights, just running onto the field before the game. And but probably more than anything that I'm going to miss is practice, just being out back. It's pretty private out there. Mm-hmm. You got the trees and the school forest. And
nobody can hear me yell at the kids.
That too, but because that's really where a team is made. At practice and working on the drills and putting in the game plan, and and just being out there with the players, and the coaches, and just creating those memories, and the yelling and sometimes the laughing, and just miss having a really good football practice. where the guys are getting after it and just everything clicks, and you can walk into the locker room after practice and say to yourself, man, we got a lot done today, and I think we're ready on Friday night. So
Wow, I never knew practice was such a significance, but that makes a lot of sense. So you were mentioning about like running out into the field as a great memory. What was your favorite call from the press box?
From the press box? When you stop talking? Maybe that was, no, I'm kidding, I don't know. I don't know. I don't always hear a lot of what you're saying, just because, you got a headset on.
Oh,
and,
shoot.
You're
Okay.
focused, on the game itself, or if it's during a timeout, you're talking to your players. But I do remember, sometimes some of the songs that you would play, like
Sure.
Sympathy of Destruction from
Yep.
Megadeth or something like that. And I remember as soon as I'd hear that, I was like, my ears would kind of perk up. And
Oh, you could hear that.
yeah, that I could hear, so the important stuff. So I love music. I love music.
But you think overall the
tough.
song selection was pretty good?
Yeah, I would say for the most part.
Solid
yeah.
B? B plus?
Yeah, B plus probably. So that's pretty good for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
take that. There was one time where I had the wrong playlist going. It was warm up, and you did say like, "Oh, we had a funeral."
Yeah, I wasn't happy with that. Was this year? I don't
It
remember
was.
what game, but I'm like,
I'm glad it wasn't
really?
your last home game.
Really?
I'm glad it happened right away.
You're trying to make us play bad and like have no atmosphere tonight. So if you were working for that, you did a good job. So.
I know. Like I ran back, and I'm like, I feel embarrassed. If you could go back to one moment and do it all over again in the season or a practice anywhere in your
Like this year or ever?
anytime, if there was a moment where you're like, I would love to go back there or do that one more time.
I was very fortunate to be a part of, 5 state championship, games, winning 4 of those. And obviously, Coach Rosemeyer was the head coach at the time, and those were some great memories too, with him and some of those great football teams that we had. And but if I'm going to be selfish, I would say if I could go back and do any one thing over again, it would probably be the 2021 state championship game. Just because it
was mine.
It's a little different feeling when you are the head coach. I'm not going to lie. Just there's a lot of planning that takes place to play at state. A lot of stats you got to send to the WIA. Phone calls to the hotel and book a hotel for 50-some people, and where are you going to eat, and
All the interviews you had to sift through that week.
interviews, and it just when that final clock said 0. And you're a state champ, and to be at Camp Randall, and yeah, that's my family was there, my wife and kids, and my sister came up from North Carolina, my brother and my nephew. It's pretty special, special moment. So
Absolutely. Now, there might be some people out there watching, wondering about getting into coaching, and with your stellar career and the passion you had, and it sounded like it had a big impact. What would you say to that person listening why they should get into coaching?
I think it's very rewarding. It's very fulfilling, and kids need us, coaches. How did you participate in sports growing up if you didn't have a coach?
That's true.
And kids need us just like we need officials, and we need EMTs and firefighters, and all those things. And it's a great profession to get into. It's very rewarding, to be able to educate, and coach the youth and watch the smiles on the faces, and sometimes even the tears are fun to watch, and because sometimes tears can be good. It can be a big win,
Oh, in that regard, like not breaking a kid down.
No, yeah, like just if you win a game, or and even tears after games, if you lose, you don't ever want to lose, but when you see guys crying after a loss, it means that they care. It means and they gave it all they got, and yeah, I would say it's a lot of work to be a coach at any level, but it's very gratifying.
Absolutely. Well, the last question I was going to ask you, like, what's life looking for you after football? But you pretty detailed that out pretty well in the first question. So I guess,
am I going to miss it? Probably. But you know, you make a decision, now you got to live with it, right? You know, I decided to step away, and now I got to live with it and move on. And you know, I'm still going to be the athletic director next year. You know, hopefully.
And you still have the keys to the press box.
Still have the keys. So you know,
watch the game up there.
I'll be at quite a few of the games. Will I be at every single away game? Probably not. You know, just because again, I want to maybe go visit mom and dad more, or my sister, or my brother. You know, and yeah. So
I'll always have a chair up there for you.
yeah. okay. But
Because Teska will sneak up there, and I always I'll have a chair for him.
yeah.
Not saying you're like old Teska, but like because you're still pretty young.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll let you run the music.
Nah, that's your job. That's your job.
Wow, I thought that was.
But
like
I might be talking in your ear about, maybe you should play this song, you know. Or,
Man, no Taylor Swift right now.
no.
Anything else that you'd like to say?
No, I'm just very grateful that, you know, the school district has allowed me to coach for 33 years and trusted me. And, you know, I feel good about I'm going out on my own terms. You know, I'm not being forced out, or, you know, I don't think the game has passed me by or anything like that, you know. And it's always good to be able to say I'm leaving on my own terms. And I don't know, I feel I'm still going to be, you know, Colby football's one of their biggest fans. And not only football, but other sports too. I mean, I love being at cross-country meets and, you know, volleyball matches and basketball games. And you know, I've never missed a high school track meet in 32 years, you know, and because I'm working them usually. But
I was going to say,
you know,
you have to be there.
I love, you know, I love Colby athletics. You know, I love the community, and it's been very good to me and been very good to my family. And, you know, my 2 kids graduated from Colby, you know, and I've got grandkids at Colby. And
Oh, now you're just bragging.
no, I'm bragging the school because I think it's a great place to be and raise a family. So.
Well, Colby certainly loves you back, and we appreciate everything you did as the football coach. But yeah, this isn't a goodbye because you're still going to be here and still participating. But you know, well, thank you so much for everything you did for the football season, because I didn't get into announcing until you showed up. You know, so like we kind of rolled that together.
Yeah, well, I appreciate, you know, and I've said this before, everything you've done too, you know, as far as, you know, creating a great atmosphere out there, you know, because I've been to other football games where it's just very monotonous and very
Dude, the away games,
blah, you know, and you've tried to create, you know, some excitement, you know, get the crowd involved and things like that, and that doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, but you know, you've always been a good sport for allowing me to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
have you pushed the limits at times? Yeah, but that's.
And you've given me some pretty store warnings, like
or the officials have.
If this oh my gosh, yeah. There's one time where you're like, if that beach ball gets anywhere near the sideline, no more of that. And then that was a playoff game where they stopped it, and they said, announcer, no more music during the game.
Right.
And that was tough because I thought you were gonna like turn around and like yell into Jimmy's ear, you know, but you didn't.
Yeah,
you had great
it's been a great run. It's been a great ride, and
yeah.
you know, thanks for all the memories, you know, and.
Well, no.